Hello students, I am Professor Chandramouli, Head of the Department of Mass Communication and Journalism at Acharya Institute of Graduate Studies, Bangalore Central University, Bengaluru. Today I am going to talk to you about quantitative research, which is Unit 2. Quantitative research means, it is studying the quantity or the size of the media consumption. Normally what we do is we try to measure the quantum of readership, listening or viewership, so that the media institution will know exactly where they stand. Quantitative data is very useful not only to the media institutions for self-appraisal, introspection and to address inadequate fields, but it is also very useful for the advertisers. In fact, they want the quantitative data to assess the strengths of different channels, because they have to place their ads. So, they want greater visibility. So, they always depend upon quantitative data. In fact, media research started in 1960s only to cater to the advertisers, because they wanted to know how they can use the media. So, we do three types of studies in quantitative research. One is diagnostic studies. In print media, we do national readership surveys and Indian readership survey. In electronic media, we do general listening survey, radio listening surveys at fixed intervals, and viewership surveys in television. And these are very useful for planning their campaign to the advertisers. In fact, impact oriented studies, they concentrate on a single theme. For example, I want to know the impact made by farmers program, I want to know the impact made by women's program, children's program, like that. So we do special serials, what kind of an impact it created, how many people have been benefited, how many people have been practicing what is taught. Similarly, we have another type of study called innovative studies. This is a part of formative research where the feasibility of an intervention is studied. For example, in electronic media, what we do is we do what is called as feed-forward studies before commissioning a channel. The study provides quantitative data about various aspects like quantum of listening, programs patronized, choice of channels, formats of choice. So, how do we collect data for this? Data collection is the main stay here. Data collection is the main part of any research. Data are collected employing both probability and non-probability methods. For this, you need a very sound sample design that ensures qualitative data that are uniform and also quantitative data that are organized, scientific and widely accepted. And the first method that is in quantitative research is the observation method. It is not only survey, but it is also observation method. Observation method, an action or process of carefully watching something is observation method. That is, it is purposeful perception. It is an ability to pay a lot of attention to things and to notice more about them. The active acquisition of information from a primary source in living beings is observation. It employs the senses. Science observation, it involves the perception and recording of certain phenomenon using scientific instruments, and in field experiments, an intervention is introduced whereby two groups, the group is divided into two. One is exposed to the intervention, which is called the experimental group. The other one is not exposed, it is called the control group. When we observe both, we understand the difference. Now, what are the methods of observation? There are three types of methods. One is the participant observation, the other one is the structured observation, the third one is the field experiments. Now, let us talk about participant observation. It makes the invisible visible. When you actually mingle with the community and you start observing things, you actually notice a lot of things that that is not visible for the naked eye. So, that is why it is called making the invisible visible. It connects the problem of inference. It is very easy to infer when you do participant observation. It improves upon the methods through manipulation. So, when you are there in the community, you can manipulate your method of observation, and it also qualifies or corrects specific theoretical claims. Suppose you are exposed to some theory, when you are observing in the field, if you find that that theoretical quotient is not seen here, you can always change. Similarly, it provides evidence for the dynamics as well as established nature of cultural production. Actually, when we do participant observation, we not only study what we want to, but we also are exposed to cultural observation. Now, what is structured observation? It is also known as systemic observation. Here, there is no direct involvement of the observer. He watches things, collects data in a informal way. He is not involved in the community. The collection technique is structured in a well defined and procedural manner. It is very procedural. Now let us come to field experiment. It is done, as I said earlier, it is done using 2 experimental groups. During the pilot testing of programs, normally what we do is we record the audience's reaction. I am showing a program, I want to know their opinion. The opinion they verbally give, but more than the opinion they verbally give, during the process of watching that program or listening to that program, the body language, how they reacted, that is all captured in a camera. Later on it is analyzed. As I say, there is saying that non-verbal communication reveals more than verbal communication, because the body language, it always speaks more than what we say. The body language doesn't speak a lie, but the mouth can speak a lie. Similarly, in field surveys, when we interview, observation of the behavior of the interviewee is very important. That is very important. You have to observe the respondent, whether he is giving the honest answer or he is trying to bluff. So the veracity of the responses is judged by his expressions and body language. Now let us come to interviews and surveys. These are the things that we use in quantitative research. What is an interview? Interview is a conversation between 2 persons. One asks the question, one answers the question, interviewer and the interviewee. So he has to build up a rapport. Actually, the interviewer has to build up a rapport with the interviewee, because he is the one who is going to respond to our questions. So essentially, this interview is used in survey research. It is very important. When you administer a schedule, interview is the method that we employ. There are different types of interview. What are the different types of interview? There are 2 major types of interview. One is structured interview. In structured interview, there will be a set of questions. This helps in maintaining uniformity in the collection of data. And in a field survey where huge samples are taken, and the method of data collection has to be by and large by interviews. Structured interview is preferred because it is easy to compile the data. Unstructured interview, there will be only talking points. These talking points provide leads only to carry on the interview. There is no rigidity. You have to follow the same order or the same talking points. You can always change during the course of the conversation. And this is the method that is followed in case studies and where in-depth studies are done. Even in field studies, primary data is required to be collected using, depth interviews. Many times, we collect data using this unstructured interview to supplement the primary data. There are certain do's and don'ts. What are the do's? Thorough knowledge in the domain area. You have to have thorough knowledge of the domain area. There should be clarity in thinking. You should be trustworthy and you should exude confidence. You cannot, when you are asking questions, don't say that, don't show off that you are nervous or you don't know. You should be very confident and you should exude a very good body language, and you should sound genuine for building up the rapport. The interviewee or the person who is talking to you, you should feel that, oh, this guy is very confident. What are the don'ts? Say, you should not ask very personal questions. This is very important. Don't ask anything that is very personal and embarrassing questions, and the interview should not be harassed. The questioning should be very crisp and it should be very, very clear. Don't repeat the questions. It should not be repetitive. Avoid unnecessary conversation. Do not allow any deviation from the subject of the study. Normally this happens, when you do interview, we tend to deviate. Now surveys. Surveys are the best way to collect quantitative data. They enable collection of data in a very organized, uniform, systematic and scientific way. Surveys cover a wide universe for data collection. So there are 4 types of surveys, mail survey, telephone survey, field survey and online survey. Now let us talk about mail survey. Mail surveys were done in electronic media earlier. We used to mail questionnaires along with a business reply envelope, and a business reply envelope is prepaid. They have to answer, just put it in the cover, paste it and post it back. We used to pay the postage and take it. Now this has become obsolete after the email came, after the online surveys came, mail surveys have become obsolete. The next type of survey is telephone survey. Telephone survey used to be done very frequently in television. You want feedback about your program, you just take the telephone directory. select the numbers from the telephone directory, and then you just dial them, tell them there is a program coming at 9 o'clock, please watch. After that, again you place a call to them and you collect the feedback. So this is how this was being done. Now that is also obsolete because we have WhatsApp options, there are many smartphone options, we don't do telephone survey. But it was a very frequently used method in television and sometimes in radio too. The field surveys, this is the mainstay. Any day, in research, field surveys are very, very important because they provide the basis for any research. But it needs very huge organization because they cover a very wide area, they use a very big sample. There are two types of sample, broadly we can classify two types of samples. One is the longitudinal sample, where the same sample is used over a period of time. Suppose I want to study viewership over a period of 5 years, whether it is increasing or decreasing, I can use the same sample. So when I use the same sample, that is called longitudinal sample. But I can also change every year within the same universe. I can select a different set of households and study the same subject. What are online surveys? They are very popular. All of us know. All of us also indulge in surveys. They are very popular. At present, researchers use questionnaires to collect data. Even PhD scholars I seen, a lot of questionnaires come to me in the email. So requesting that please fill it up and send it. This has replaced the earlier mail survey, and the business replaced. They are all become business. Companies are also using email surveys to get feedback about their product and service. This is about the quantitative research. As I said, quantitative research involves different types of studies. You need to have you need to design a questionnaire, you need to design a schedule wherever necessary, and you have to collect the data. And there are different guidelines for framing a questionnaire, different guidelines for framing a schedule, and you have to also plan your field work. And only when you plan your field work, when you draw a sound sample, plan your field work, go to the field and collect the data, your quantitative research is complete. Students, I hope I made what quantitative research vivid for you, clear for you. I hope you understood. Thank you very much, students.